That's why I have 7 points on the star. And so they're supposed to carry out Constitution law. And when they violate, they just fire themselves. So when the sheriff comes talking about, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you stick someone on your door and talking about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you out, he violated law. That's a violation of due process. Islam. Even if you're in what they might say is default.
I was reading the preamble, and I saw it a little differently.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, we the people. And then I'm going to skip down to where it says, for the common defense. Who are the parties in common? And then it goes down and says, ordain the people of the United States have the authority, and then they wrote it down. They established the Constitution for the United States of America.
They didn't. Now there's two parties. There's two parties. And this is why it's important for you to read, as an example, some of the letters from the Continental Congress to the Sultan. And this is also why I put, even though you can make, because our attention span is like that I put George Washington's letter in the treaty book so you could understand why no one speaks under the Great Seal. Let's keep it simple. Pull out a so-called dollar note, which you already know is debt. And there's your Great Seal right there. And then where the bird is, it says, of the United States. Of is a preposition, which means a substantive connector. But you know that no politicians under the executive, judicial, or legislative branch of government speaks under that pyramid. None of them do. That's the original United States. And the other is United States of America.
And nobody that calls themselves Freemason, Skull and Bones, Shriner, anybody that is recognized or called Illuminati, secret society, they don't speak under the Great Seal either. People impose that on those organizations, but they don't speak under the Great Seal. So it's not Illuminati's either. On top of it not being executive, judicial, and legislative. On top of it not being belong to them, because they always talk under the eagle. When it comes to all the Masonic whatever, none of them either speak under the pyramid. So whose pyramid is that? If it's not Illuminati's and it's not the government's, then why is it still on the note? 2021, you pull out a note right now, it's still on there. Why is it on there if it has nothing to do with them?
There's two entities. Do you understand? And this is what you would call, when they talk about Jefferson and them, and they say, some guys came in black robes in the middle of the night and gave them some documents, and then they did the Constitution. They're Moors. And then, again, this is, why you, when you look at, remember when Wilson was in office and they did that silent movie, The Birth of a Nation? And yes, that's where it had its first showing, in the White House. And most of us begin, as we said before, immediately run to that training, that rat training. And they're racist, they don't like black guys. Because the guys are in there eating chicken and watermelon, looking like buffoons, right? But the concept that most of our people have with the miseducation, because the black man is slave, look and make him look like Step and Fetch It. If they were stop and think and get away from the satire, they'd recognize that the congressmen and senators were brothers. If they could get it past emotion with that fake race argument, they recognize we was the majority of the government.
And not only that, in the same Birth of a Nation silent movie. It's 4 hours long, so they already know ain't no Negro attention span is like that. So Negro's not, and it's silent. So Negro's not even interested in looking. Near the end of the movie, one of the quote unquote Europeans in blackface who's pretending to be, you know, our people who were running the government, he ends up shooting somebody, and then they chase him down and catch him. So after they catch him, they're dressed up like the Klan, and they're dragging him out to go put him on the tree or whatever like that. One of the Klansmen goes in the guy's shirt and pulls out a fez and waves the fez. And then they cast that aside, and then they take him up, and then they lynch him or whatever like that. So don't you dare think that these people don't know who really runs the North Gate. They know who runs the North Gate. The problem is our people don't have any faith in themselves. And on top of no faith in themselves, they have no faith in their prophet, who took away all the secrets and gave them everything that it takes to save a nation and told them save themselves. But they don't want to save themselves. They want to march and picket and die in and paint Black Lives Matter on the street. And then people get frustrated with that, and then they erase that. And they're still playing the game.
Down or die. You know, we are the United States. Do you understand? And that corporate entity is the Amity and Commerce agreements after the treaty. This is why when people are studying history, they need to look at, and often they won't teach this in school, the ordinance of 1787. And you look at the treaty, and remember the treaties were long running even before we took it out of the Congress and added the Republican form of government and added the 10 amendments in harmony with the hands of the amanuensis masters. That's why you got 10 organic, what they call it, organic constitution, because it's based on the body, the 7 chakras and the hands of man, you know. And so that's why anything after the 10th is referred to in law as negative law. All right, so when you look at that.
Oh, so that means all these people who's talking about, oh, the 13th Amendment says that that means that's negative law, right? Because Constitution only goes up to 10 articles or 10 amendments. So if anybody is talking to you about Constitution and they're starting to talk about after 10 Amendment, know that they're going into negative law. How do you know that? Because when you read 13th Amendment, 20 sections, and they're talking about Africans can't be whatever, what's African? There ain't no such thing as African. That's a fiction. What do you mean Africans can't be citizens? Obviously they can't. There's no such thing as African. Slaves can't be citizens. Obviously they can't. There's no such thing as a slave. Those are fictions. And how much amendments they got today? 20 something or whatever like that? And you still don't realize that these people are playing you? And then on top of all that, all these amendments got pushed and there was not one constitutional convention in order to add those amendments. This is just some legislative stuff that they said, oh yeah, put that in the Senate and then we'll just put it in there and say that that's the law now because, you know, we're supposed to enforce the Constitution, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Is it the supreme law of the land if they change it? Or is it now legislative, which really doesn't have power like that? Which is why, again, the importance of Moors going back and reading Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations so that you can have the correct perspective as to how we're supposed to be looking at this. Because we've been looking at this all wrong for forever, because we strayed away from what Noble Drew Ali presented. And then people who were given the disciples of Jesus sold him out.
Look at George Washington's position being subordinate. About 6 or 7 months, he was appointed. He wasn't elected. He was appointed to the palace April the 30th. He wrote the letter December the 1st, 1789. Keep in mind, at the same time while he was being appointed to the palace, that before the courts, but the courts were too low to deal with it, so they had to create a court of general sessions in the House of Representatives, because the issue was diversity, consular. And so at the same time, this is when you saw the Sundry Free Moors Act taking place with some Moors who were sold as slaves in North Carolina. And they wanted to be assured that if anything amenable to be brought to trial, they would not be tagged as Negro, black, and colored. That they would be Moors in alliance with the United States. They're your stars and stripes, because that's the agreement. In amity, you understand, with England, who we merged to make this union of peace to stop the hundreds of years wars between the Muslims and the Christians, which is really what the original United States Republic is for. And people need to know that, so that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater thinking when they say white man, it means Europeans. No, it means us. It does not mean Caucasian race. You understand? We brought them into government. Now, when we brought them in, what you would call in a more solidified form, this is the position where Chief Justice Ben Bey Muali, who you know in history as Ben Banneker, spoke before the Continental Congress and suggested that the Army General, George Washington, take Benjamin Franklin's place, who was under the protection of Sidi Muhammad. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson with Thomas Barclay as agent in business during 1784, when the treaty was commenced under the authority of the Sultan.
Oh, okay. So, Republic Society of Morocco. And then, when you look at the Societas Republica et al Morocanos, and you're in America talking about that, that should let you know where Morocco is. Forget, is that the government? Is that the Great Seal? Why does it say Morocanos over here? If over here is not Morocco. Which again goes back again to Benjamin Banneker, Ben Bey, and him designing Washington for these Europeans, and him suggesting that George Washington be put in the seat, and then they go with it, which would mean that obviously he had power in government. If he's going to make a suggestion, hey, you know what, you guys should let that guy George Washington go in the seat or whatever, and yeah, you know what, that's a good idea. We'll appoint him as president. Wouldn't that mean that we had the power? Just by a mere suggestion, he became president. And then don't forget to go get Dr. Ali Melbay's book, First World Order, where they talk about them silently murdering George Washington and putting an imposter in there, Adam Weishaupt, and start calling him George Washington. Because they knew that this was the empire and they were about to take over. There are people looking at the hub of the Moorish Empire, and they're looking over there, Granada and 1492 and all that stuff, and they forgot about over here. We've been played.
And so this is why you see when that was finally ratified in 1786, right? Then you have final ratification in 1786, and then with the final signing in 1787, then you have the ordinance of 1787 where the agreements was made how the new government would be formulated. This is why that's not taught in school. And then you have the ratification of the Republican order within the Constitution, and that's a constitutional convention. That's when George was appointed to the office that was really assigned for Benjamin Franklin. But in fact, it was 8 presidents before him, and the only one that ever used that great seal, pyramid, was John Hanson, the first president for the Republic. You know, and so it's important for them not to...
And remember, Dick Gregory talking about going to the Senate building, and then when he went to the Senate building, they have John Hanson's picture in there. And John Hanson is not some European. Don't let the name fool you, and don't let these fake pictures that they're passing around fool you. John Hanson was brother. Why do they have this brother's picture in the Senate as the first president of the Republic? But then again, you know, you need to be able to have access to the Senate to even be able to go see the picture, if it's still up there. Because remember, like Brother Sheldon was saying, as soon as we start waking up, they start eliminating our history all around them. And then we're getting mad. Why they take the stuff down? Because we're waking up. We don't need it. We're here in their face now. You don't need a picture of a Moor to know who the Moors are. Just go outside, look out the window, you should see a turban or a fez.
Show the history because it would show the tie. So when you look at we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, etc., the union is the United States. This is why, particularly when they started overthrowing us internally here, and you can check this out, one of the first things they did strategically was dismantle all the Republican forms of government in the southern states. Why? Because of its relationship to the Moors. They're just listed as blacks, you know, to distort history. And this is why it's important for our people to know their relationship, because most of our people suffer from disassociation. They keep thinking that, you know, Madison, Ben Franklin, John Hancock, you know, Thomas Jefferson, that they wrote that Constitution. No, that comes from Moorish law. This is what Obama was signifying when he went to Hiccuta. And this is why Michelle went to the Alhambra, the last stronghold of the Moors before the overthrow. They're sending signals, but if you don't know the history, you don't know what you're looking at. And this is back to the point where why we have to teach our people, because the world already knows. We're the ones that need to be convinced. And see, so because they've made so much effort, burned so much literature, that we as a grand body have what you call no immediate reference points, except for those who belong to secret societies, and they take an oath to Rome not to reveal the secrets, so it's still locked out from you. And even when they're given the stories, like Hiram Abiff, etc., the 3 ruffians banging you in the head, you know, allegorical. You know, you're the architect, you're the grand architect of this thing, you're the master builder. They bury you in the dark north gate. They're keepers of the North Gate. North Gate is the cosmological name for North America, the heart of the Moroccan Empire. So you gotta, once you understand these things,
That's why certain Prince Hall people called North America wilderness. That's why certain Prince Hall people, in all their books, they never write about North America being some civilized place where Asiatics ruled. They always call it wilderness, implying darkness, implying where the three ruffians beat Hiram Abiff's ass and buried him in the shallow grave. The shallow grave is the wilderness of North America that they're talking about. You have to know the code that these people are speaking in, because all these people are finesse masters. And they've been given the information. They've been given the information. And their duty is not to tell it. Because they're getting their 501c3 IRS checks in order to be able to do whatever they're doing, which is to cause confusion. So as soon as they start talking about the Americans, and then they're looking at Europeans, and then they start about United States government, and then they're looking at President Biden and Kamala Harris and all that, know that they work for the other side, because they should be calling them colonists. They shouldn't be calling them the government. They shouldn't be not knowing what's going on. And the only way that they're relaying the message is if they're getting paid by the people who are in direct possession of your vast estate and keeping you Negro, black, colored, so these people could stay in possession of your vast estate.
say, for instance, you come amongst people who want to free you, they won't give it to you in allegorical stories. They just tell you the truth. Somebody want to slave you, they give you an allegorical story, keep taking money from you for 50 years, and then you take an oath not to reveal a secret, not even to your wife who you're sleeping with. You know, watching your babies get all screwed up, knowing they're out to lunch, don't know what's up, and you got an oath to roam and pin your tassel down so that it cannot rotate. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to really understand the dynamics. You got to make an announcement. Yes. Yes. All right. We're going to take a break in a minute, but this is very important. Grab something to eat. Keep everlasting life going, because everlasting life is keeping you going. It's true. Some of these concepts, and I repeat them sometimes, because you get a lot of information. There's information all around. You're in the Aquarian age, you're going to be flooded. But don't drown, because you must have a solid foundation on which to place it. Because keep this in mind, Pandora's box is open. Somebody stole the hinges. She ain't going back in. You understand? So whatever you're going to deal with is going to be both positive and negative. In order to survive this thing, you're going to need knowledge and not emotion. Again, welcome back, as usual, to Everlasting.
In order to survive this, you're going to need knowledge and not emotion. Knowledge and not emotion. And the only way you're going to get knowledge is if you study. And the only way that the knowledge is really going to have an impact on you is if it settles within you. You can't be Negro, black, colored yesterday. Today we're Moors. and then this stuff is over. How long were you Negro black colored? Oh yeah, I've been Negro black colored for 25 years of my life. In the 26th year of my life, I found out that I'm a Moor, so now I'm a Moor. No, you're not. You're still Negro. You're just a Moor in talking. You're not a Moor as a being, because you still have 25 years of Negro to detox out of yourself. You can't talk Moorish yet. That's why we tell the fetuses to go sit down somewhere. Don't talk. You just go study, listen. Don't even ask any questions yet, because majority of your questions answered if you're study. But fetuses don't want to do that. Fetus want to play that they're baby. When fetus should be gestating, growing your limbs. You don't have limbs yet. You're a fetus. You don't have eyes to see, ears to hear, nose to smell, tongue to taste. But you're a Moor. That you know about your nationality and your birthrights, and you're going to shut down this because and you're a fetus? Please.
I just want to make sure what they have, so that's the proclamation that we sent to China, Venezuela.
Might not have enough for everyone. Take it personal, please. Now, a lot of the stuff is on the website.
Yes, it's on the website. Yeah, it's on. Pass it to someone who doesn't know. So conceptually, now, keep in mind that when you become active, a lot of the corporate states, they will put out misinformation to try to act like you're doing lunchbox stuff. They're anti-government and they think they're not good, and he's taste the wall and all that kind of stuff, right? So we did the proclamation and sent it to China. You'll see on the back the different countries we sent it to. On the last page at the bottom, and you'll see the different political jurisdictions we sent it to. And then after we sent that out, all of a sudden all these proclamations start coming in from around the country. That's in other words, because you must start acting like who you are. You're a nation state. You got to start acting like that. Are we clear? And you have to start thinking. So study that in your spare time. That's an example, but not limited to how you're.
So, if you go to Moorish Nation Public Records, on Moorish Nation Public Records, there's a proclamation that the Moors sent out on behalf of Moors worldwide. Right? That's where all the states and the cities that put out the proclamations, the Noble Drew Ali, Honor Noble Drew Ali, and all that stuff, that's where they got all that stuff from. All the stuff that they have in the proclamation, they went to that. They went to House Joint Resolution to verify what Moors told them in this writ that went out to multiple different nations. And you can go read it for yourself. It's on MoorishNationPublicRecords.com. And they didn't send that out for their selfish self. They sent that out for Moors as a whole. They sent that out on behalf of Moors of the North Gate. So you have your personal name correction and judicial proclamation, which is your duty as a Moor to put these people on notice. But your judicial proclamation and name correction is secondary to that main proclamation that went out on behalf of all the Moors, which is why they give you the 7 locations to send it to, because these people already got put on notice. So they can't pretend like they don't know. It's not just some arbitrary people that you're sending the stuff to. It's being sent to specific people who already got put on notice. No different with the Moors near Canaanland. When we took that same proclamation and then we put it in our newspaper. And then we took the newspaper and we sent that out to everybody out here. Prime Minister, Provost Marshal, Queen, Governor General, Chief of Police of all the different jurisdictions, so they know who the Moors are. But we did it in newspaper form. Because you already told us to use our press.
Supposed to be thinking about yourself. In other words, that's how you write in the state of mind of being Moorish American, knowing who you are. And so you don't hesitate when there's an issue to write to another government. Do you understand? So they was talking trash. But
Everyone who's talking, we can hear the background noise on the tape. So please be respectful of what's going on tonight. If you want to come in and sit down or whatever, come in and sit down. Relax yourselves into time because we can really hear that background noise on the tape. Just letting everyone know, okay? Thank you. Thank you.
all right.
Right? And then that's the same thing that we're dealing with right now. Then you go on the call, and then people not muting their stuff. And they're talking about go in the store to go buy some chocolates and all that type of stuff while people are talking serious matters. So don't think that it's something new. This is what we've been dealing with. It's not something new. Been dealing with this. Right? People painting their house and all that stuff, and then they have their camera on. Why is your camera on for? Why don't you just take off your camera and just listen? You don't need to see you painting your house. Are you voting on something? Are you making a decision about something? No? Then take your camera off. And make sure you mute your stuff. Because we don't want to hear you sucking your girlfriend's toes and stuff like that while we're on the call. Right? Yeah, you can suck the toes, just mute your stuff. We don't need to know what's going on in your thing if we're having a serious conversation.
So this is an instrument we sent out to other nation states. And after we sent that out, within 4 months, from all over the country, we started getting all these proclamations in. Oh yeah, because they don't want to be charged with human trafficking. You see? But that's also let the rest of the civilized world know that we're competent to our estate. Even though they're operating, they're doing what they do. Hey. Like that, even though we still got cheap sneaks on, that type of thing. You understand? Letting them know, even though the corrupted trustees are under color, pretending that they're government and getting away with it because the people don't know that they're the government, that in spite of what they're doing, that we're speaking up. See, because when you speak up, the rest of the world has already spoken for you. This is what...
No, so if the people are the government, no, we need USAR and all that stuff to be our government. If the people are the government. If the people are the government, what we need them for? What purpose they serving? You're the government. Not anybody else is the government. You're it. And you be governing by governing yourself. You don't have some swindler come out, call themselves president, and then now, oh yeah, those guys are our government. Or you don't have some pastor come out talking about we're Moors, and then everybody knows that he's a pastor, and then nobody's paying attention that he's a pastor, and everybody's avoiding the fact that you have a pastor running your government, talking about that's a government. That's not government, that's church. When creating these affidavits for family, can one write for whole family, or do ones that's considered an adult have to write their own? Everybody needs to be a priest unto themselves. Just like, for example, with regard to that, when creating affidavits, can one write for the whole family, or do ones considered an adult? The ones that think, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this for the family, that's a hire a lawyer mentality, right? Someone to represent you. But if you do that, and those people aren't competent, they're going to be in worse trouble than if they would have just stayed Negro, black, colored. Because you can't jump on this and think that, oh, well, that guy over there said, that's not how this works. You better be competent. If you're not competent, it's cool. And ain't nothing wrong. You just need to get competent. That's all. So you go study and get yourself wise. But you don't want somebody doing anything for you. That's why we said that even though the Moors, who we consider, echelon or whatever like that, on behalf of all the Moors, put out a proclamation, you still have to do your individual proclamation. Even though they put out a proclamation, and even though certain jurisdictions recognized it and gave honors to Noble Drew Ali, gave honors to the Moors, gave honors to the fact that we're indigenous, and all that in their proclamations, we still have to do that. Right? No, if there's children involved, remember the children have power of attorney of the parents. Children can't talk for themselves. And there should be no position where the heir is talking for themselves without parent present. As soon as that's going on, you know that's criminal. Why are you talking to children without the parents there? Just like when they kidnapped that little sister, right? Then they had her in the back of the police car and all that stuff, violating her rights as a child, right? She, as a child, should have been groomed by the parents. That just like when they get their little insulin stuff and all that stuff, and they let them know, okay, well, here's your insulin bag, and this is your EpiPen, and if you feel yourself, then you go in your bag and you get your EpiPen, and then you administer your stuff. Same thing you do with the proclamation with the children. So if you're doing a household proclamation, right? No, you don't tell me what to do or whatever. I eat on here if I want to. No, don't give no orders around here. If you don't want to hear me eating, go somewhere else. I'm here stopping my sea moss porridge. What are you talking about? Where you come from? Who are you? No eating. Please. So, when the adults have children and the children are being proclaimed by the parents, the children have to be groomed by the parents. So in the proclamation, you would have their names in there, right? And then all the 7 children would have their copy. So that if anything goes down, the pattern is give them, whoever it is that you're dealing with, you don't even say anything. You just go in your little pouch and you give them the proclamation. Right? And then in there it should say something, relative to, whoever is a minor. So you shouldn't be having any conversations with them unless LB parents are present. Right? That would be how you do it. If you're gonna do that blanket proclamation for the family, but you're not gonna do a blanket proclamation for your uncle, your aunt, and whoever who doesn't know, because I'm the more in the family, so I'm looking out for the whole family by doing proclamation now. Because as soon as you go to them, or as soon as foreigner or whoever goes to them and brings it up, they're gonna tell, oh, you mean Jeffrey? Well, we know that he's been studying this thing or whatever, but that's just Jeffrey. We know Jeffrey. We love him. He's our, and they'll put you in the jurisdiction that you're trying to get yourself out of. So don't do people's work for them unless they're a minor, not minor in mind, minor in age.
Why in the rights of indigenous people, they continuously, in one General Assembly after another, keep saying, declare your nationality. This is because for the laws to apply to you, for your protection, you cannot walk around talking about crayons and be a part of the civilized world. Human beings are not crayons. So we got to stop being little boys and girls, grow up, act like we know, and do what we know, and study, study, study. And so I'm going to read from the congressional records.
No, you already know that how they got the CMOS. You know what I mean? So you just put it in everything that you're eating. Just like how you scoop it out, put it in smoothie. You scoop it out, put it in your porridge. Scoop it out, put it in your soup. Scoop it out, just eat out a spoon. Because you can't OD on CMOS. You can't overdose. So, get it in as much as you can. There's definitely a benefit to making sure you're getting your nutrients that you're probably not going to get from all these fruits and all this other stuff that they're trying to sell you. That's GMO and Monsanto and whatever else.
One of the 7 articles of the Secret Treaty of Verona, and this is for you to be recognizing that all the congressmen, all the senators, all these people running for president know this all the time. But logically, if they informed you, you wouldn't be paying them to enslave you. Do you understand? Including your Negro leader guys that got you marching and praying and paying taxes to a government that has been dissolved, who give them kickbacks in the church with a 501c3 to keep this BS going. Do you understand? So let's step into the real world of politics. Congressional record, the Senate for the United States of North America, the 64th Congress, first session, volume 53, part 7, page 6781, 25th of April, 1916. So keep in mind, so the Congress is meeting 1916. Remember, Drawley set up the Old Canaanite Temple 1913. So Woodrow Wilson met with the popes and the English bankers off Georgia in 1913 and sold the government to counter him. Because you're the heirs to the estate. You got to understand the real politics so that you understand the dynamics, what's against you that no one is speaking of. Because once you know, you change your state of mind. Means someone can lead you to the water, but they can't make you drink. And if you don't understand the real politics, Usually they have Negro leader guys out here have you spinning your wheels, doing marching and praying things that really have no effect, but it keeps you busy while the real world of the matrix is operating around you. You understand? And you're misplugged and don't even know it. And they're draining your energies. Do you understand? All right.
Right, so look at that. Look at that, like, you remember in the Matrix when Morpheus was taking Neo through the training, and then they were in the white room and all that stuff, and he's showing them what's going on, and then they went to the dojo, and then they're training, and then, you know, he went to, you know, the Oracle and the red dress scene, and everybody's a potential agent and all that stuff. While Neo was going through all that, the Matrix is going on around him. Remember when he came to his senses in the car when they were going to see the Oracle? He was like, oh, I used to eat at that spot. Is that air you're breathing? Oh, I just had deja vu. Remember, he wasn't there yet. He wasn't ready yet. He was still dumb nigger, detoxing. He wasn't like Cypher, who was completely a traitor. But he was still detoxing. It wasn't until Matrix 3 where he really knew that he was a Moor. It wasn't until 3 that he realized what it really meant to be a Moor. 1 and 2, he's still, you know, just putting his toe in the water. Oh yeah, this water's warm. Okay, I think I'll go in now. And they went up to his knees and he said, oh no, I don't think I can do this yet, and run out. Right? It's going on all around you. While you're getting into this information and finding out stuff and researching and whatever, these colonists aren't stop doing what they're doing. They're continuing their attack. They're continuing their modus operandi while we're studying. You know what I mean? And we're only behind the ball because of the traders who didn't tell us about this so that we can figure our stuff out. Right? In our affidavit claim of right, is it excessive to proclaim our Moorish American heritage along with our Anglo-Saxon Moorish heritage concerning Europe, i.e. Britain heritage? Well, look at it from the perspective that yes, your family is from the islands and went to Europe, right? You're a descendant of Moroccans born in America, right? But if your family's never been in the islands, let's say it came from the continent and went to Europe, then you're descendants of that in Europe. So the language is gonna have to change. The language is gonna have to alter to fit the situation. Right? The language has to be altered to fix the situation. You can't look at it from the perspective of Moorish American if you have no connection to America. Moorish American is only if you have a connection to America. Right? That's how that applies. Descendants of Moroccans born in America. Now, if we're descendants of Moroccans and Morocco's also over there, but we're descendants of Moroccans born in Britain, descendants of Moroccans born in Scotland, descendants of Moroccans born, then that's where it comes into the individuals who are there doing that research in order to perfect the claim of right that you're going to use in that jurisdiction where you're at and pass that on to others who are in that jurisdiction, so the stuff could be figured out with the right perspective. Right? So I wouldn't say that it's excessive, because we know a majority of the family who are over there come from the islands, which is America. Right? But being that you're there, if you've been there so long that you have the accent now, you probably want to look over there and start doing some research about the Moorish history there and tie yourself to the Moorish history there. Not just the America part of it, but also the Moorish history there.
So listen to this, and this has been made available to you so you can have a copy of this. Also, we put this in the Protocols of Liberty book in context so that you can historically look at this properly. But this is from the congressional records. Now, this is one of the senators in reference to this treaty that they all know about, because this is the foundation of the politics. I wish to put into the record the secret Treaty of Verona of November the 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. I wish to call the attention of the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which was the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. So when you're studying so-called American history about the Monroe Doctrine and sovereign states, etc., now you understand the motivation why certain things were done politically, so now you can put it in context. Are we clear? And also understand some of your political positions and non-positions. All right. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between the monarchical government and government by the people. The Holy Alliance, and you know who that references, under the influence of Metternich, the premier of Austria, in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document. So this is what all the Europeans have been operating on, Klan and all the rest of them, and they got Negro leaders out there who they pay off. They get you to argue racism and prejudice and color games, and they're operating off the Treaty of Verona. Are we clear? Secret Treaty of Verona, American Diplomatic Code 1778, 1884. Keep in mind they had the Berlin Conference 1884-85, dividing the Ottoman Empire. So you got to understand history. Ottoman Empire is really Moorish Empire. You got to really understand this. Volume 2, Elliott, page 179. Secret Treaty of Verona. The undersigned specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance after having exchanged their respective credentials have agreed as follows. Article 1.
Keep that same energy, Mars. We'll be right back.